My Lords, may I first of all welcome Baroness Harding into the Chamber, and I look forward to hearing her maiden speech. We have worked together in the past in some rather large projects, and I can assure you that she is a very capable business person and will bring a good contribution to the House. She will be about the only person here to recognise the genius in what I'm about to say now, actually. I welcome the opportunity to discuss this bill with your lordships today, and I would like to start off by stating that there are indeed a few positive parts in it. As your lordships will recall, I was once appointed by the past Prime Minister as an advisor specialising in SMEs. In that role, I travelled the country visiting many small companies and spoke to thousands of business people at specially organised seminars where the delegates were invited to ask me questions about their businesses or issues of government policy at the time. I used these seminars to try to understand people's concerns, and unsurprisingly, one of the most frequently asked questions of me was, what can the government do to help my business? Well, in principle, we all agree that support for small business and employment is a good thing, but this bill does not go far enough in offering practical, common-sense solutions for small business. And that is the test that should be applied to this bill before us today. What can this bill do to help small business and enterprise in the UK? Well, the simple answer is, at the moment, as drafted, not enough. It goes some way to addressing the problems that small businesses face, for example, around access to finance, but there are some serious weak points in the bill, and one of the biggest issues that came up in my seminars was late payment and how that was crippling the cash flow of some of these companies who were, and I would say, who were those culprits? Well, they're the large organisations who in many cases were executing lucrative government contracts. And here we are 5 years later, and the same issues exist. In the matter of late payment, we have an example of this bill, in the way it's drafted, being great on paper, but having no real impact where it matters, in people's factories, offices, and most importantly, in small business accounts. One of the most crippling things for small business is to cope with late payment, or in some cases, no payment at all. And it's sadly becoming an increasingly common issue, with 60% of the UK small businesses reporting that late payments are a real problem to them. Now, in my early days of business, I knew that you needed to build up trust with suppliers. I treated them as I would have a tax or electricity bill. They simply had to be paid on time. Now, people who specialise in insolvency have estimated that 1 in 5 business failures are simply down to bills being paid late rather than the actual fouled business model. It only takes a few late payments to bring a small business close to the edge. This government bill will do very little to help solve this problem. It offers no incentive for companies to make payments on time, or more importantly, any deterrence for paying late. The bill, as written, only gives power to the Secretary of State to direct companies to publish certain information on their payment practices. This will have virtually no impact on whether they adhere to these self-published policies or not. In my opinion, it changes nothing. The onus will still be on the small business who are being shortchanged to chase for payment. I often wonder what experience those who have drafted these bills have. It is clear in this case that they have no idea whatsoever what it's like in the real world, on the coalface, so to speak. Small businesses are hesitant to alienate their suppliers with fear that they will have business taken away from them if they complain too much. We should be using this bill to remove an environment for businesses to be paid late. And as has been suggested and discussed in the other place, we need government to be tougher in showing companies that late payment are not an acceptable part of our business culture. simply by accruing their own interest and improving their own cash flows while other smaller businesses suffer is totally unacceptable. Harsh but fair penalties should have been included in this bill. Instead of small businesses fighting for payment, causing further financial reputational cost, late payers should automatically pay interest owed to their suppliers, 8% above the Bank of England's interest rate, I would suggest. It's only then we'll see business suddenly wake up and start paying on time, where failure to do so will hit their bottom line. When you have a business secretary, and with respect, a government that doesn't really get it, and by that I mean what life is really like for the average small business, there is no point in creating legislation if some clever lawyer can find a loophole of where the policies have no impact on business or people's lives. I would now like to draw your Lordship's attention to the clauses which seek to deal with the enforcing of the national minimum wage. On all sides of this House, we are in agreement that we want to see more people in work and off benefits. But there are a staggering amount of people who currently do the right thing and don't even receive a minimum wage. They've gone out and got themselves a job only to find that their work doesn't even amount to the minimum of £6.50 an hour. There are now reports that at least 300,000 people in the UK are earning less than the minimum wage, which leaves the door open for unscrupulous companies to exploit inexperienced, desperate and in some cases migrant workers. Also, they can undercut firms who are playing by the rules. The solution is that this bill offers is simply increase the penalties for companies failing to pay the national minimum wage to their workers, which on the face of it sounds very good, seems a sensible way to tackle the problem. But when one hears that the government has only identified 25 firms breaking the minimum wage law, it is clear that investigation and enforcement are the real problems, not the size of the penalty. This bill fails to protect those people expected to work for less than the minimum wage and businesses that do pay their staff a fair wage from being undercut. And as I said before, it would appear that the current Biz Secretary aims to pass a bill on small businesses without knowing what the real challenges of running a small business are, let alone how to deal with them effectively. The bill does contain some good intentions, but when we are legislating to help small businesses, good intentions aren't enough if they don't translate to real changes on the shop floor, the back of the vans or the bank balances of our small businesses.